Hi everyone, hope everyone is doing well and continuing to stay safe. This is Rena and today we're going to take a look at the You Matter to Me stamp set. This stamp set is part of the Mama Elephant April release, which drops on April 15th. These stunning florals are illustrated by Anna Oswald. She illustrates all of Mama Elephant's gorgeous floral stamps. And this set comes with the You Matter to Me sentiment as part of the bouquet, and it also comes with a bunch of little mini sentiments too that you can add on as an additional sentiment. Today we're going to do some watercoloring with distress inks, and the paper I'm using is the Strathmore Bristol Smooth Surface paper. This paper has a coating on it, so it takes a while for ink to dry on it. So I have been ignoring my distress ink, so we're going to use them today to watercolor. I'm taking that large stamp and I'm making sure that the paper underneath is locked down because we're going to stamp several times with different colors of ink. So the Distress Oxide ink colors that I'm using are Evergreen Bough, Wild Honey, Ripe Persimmon, Candied Apple, and Dusty Concord. So I'm kind of starting at the top there with like a green blue color, and then I'm stamping it several times until I kind of get a good image, and then I'm moving on to the next color. Sometimes I clean in between, sometimes I don't. It just depends if I don't want to contaminate the ink pad or not. So the next color I'm using is the Wild Honey, and when it mixes with that Evergreen Bough, that color where it mixes becomes kind of a green color. And then the next color is the Ripe Persimmon, and you want to kind of overlap it with the color above it. So when you're doing this technique, you want to use colors that are next to each other on the color wheel so they blend nicely together. I mean, I love it just like this. I love that rainbow look. So the look I was going for is kind of like a loose watercolor faux no line look that doesn't look too contrived and a little bit effortless. So I'm using a water brush pen to put in some water, and you saw me fanning the paper earlier. So this Bristol Smooth cardstock allows the ink to be wet for a little bit longer. And when you go in right after you stamp, you could get a muddy look because the ink's still wet, and then you might lose a little bit of the detail. So the reason why I kept it in my stamp positioner tool is because let's say I color it, I lose a little bit of detail, I can restamp it with the same color to get that detail back again. It also doesn't really matter how long you let the ink dry. I like to let it dry for a little bit longer because I just don't want a lot of pigment. I wanted it to look very watercolor-like. And so what I'm doing is I'm kind of touching the brush on the lines and I'm dragging out the pigment inside, and it's really satisfying to in person. And I'm not adding any ink to my water brush. I'm just taking the ink on the stamp image, taking the water, touching it to it. And one of the properties of distress ink is that it reacts with water. So when water touches it, it will naturally, blend out and do something because it's made to use with water. In the areas where there's a lot of detail, you could get a lot of pigment. So in those areas, I'm just wiping off the extra pigment on a paper towel because I really wanted like a light, kind of flowy look to this. I also didn't want it to look perfect. I just wanted it to look just effortlessly watercolored. So we're done with that image. We're going to let that dry for a bit because I don't want to smear anything. So now I'm taking some of the sentiments from the stamp set and I'm going to stamp it out. I'm stamping it out in the distress ink that I use because I wanted it to match my card. I'm taking one of the Let's Chat speech bubbles and I'm going to use that to cut out the sentiment. I'm going to take the basic rectangle set from Mama Elephant. I'm going to take the second to the last largest die and I'm going to center that image and cut it out, and then I'm going to cut out the largest rectangle die, which is an A2 size card, and then I'm going to use double-sided foam adhesive to mount my image onto the largest rectangle. I've cut out the sentiment using the Let's Chat bubble, and I also cut an additional bubble because I want that sentiment to be slightly popped up, and then so that's double stacked, and then I will adhere that to the card. I'm adhering it toward the bottom just so there's just an additional message there. I wanted a little bit more sparkle to the card, so I am adhering just some silver stars in different places using the Marvi Uchida jewel picker, and I'm adhering it with the art glitter glue. So that card front is done. We're going to mount it on a card base. I was practicing coloring this image prior to making the video, and I did practice on watercolor paper using oxides instead of the regular distress inks, and I do have one of the samples that I worked on, and I mounted it using the Sweet Feline dyes, and I use the oxide inks in Abandoned Coral and Mustard Seed. And it just has a little bit of a different look when you use oxides. I like the look as well. It looks a little bit more milkier and a little bit more subtle. I think also using watercolor paper brings like another texture to the image, so it looks a little bit different than using the Bristol Smooth cardstock. I like both ways, but I think I preferred the distress ink a little bit more because I wanted like a more clear, vibrant look. And that's it. I'm calling these cards done. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you give this a try. It was super fun to do. I had watercolored tons of these images prior, and it was really fun mixing different colors around and seeing how they blend together. And the blending is just so effortless. It's really cool to watch. Make sure to join me tomorrow. We are going to play with some koalas. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have an awesome day. Stay safe and happy crafting. See you guys soon. Bye. Before I forget, make sure to leave a comment below. Mama Elephant will be selecting a random comment from the 4 videos from this April release to win a stamp set.